Cracked my bones.
God damn, dude. You almost broke your back over there.
That was my back. Those was my hands.
Yeah, dude. You're like, I don't know what the hell that was. Estrenando la silla nueva.
Exactly. Look at this. Check this out, people. I got a chair now.
God damn, my
Small
boy's
thing for
living
you
in
guys.
luxury.
Small things for you guys, but yeah, inside joke here.
Hey, yeah.
I've been waiting on this chair for some time.
Hey, you guys think these improvements are for us, but they're really for you. So watch me sit during this episode. Nice and
me being more comfortable is all about you guys.
Nice. Starting off the episode with some self-centered statements into the world, if you will.
There you go.
Welcome back, everybody, to another great episode. This is Uncut Pod number 3. I am Omar, your lovely co-host, and this is my friend over here,
Juan.
My other lovely co-host, only other co-host, the co-host.
My other co-host. Who are you doing? Yeah. Who are you doing this with?
Yeah, we're back with another episode of something a little bit loosey-goosey, something flexible, something uncut, something with no guidelines for you guys today because we're feeling the good vibes. We wanted something nice. We wanted something to feel good, something natural, organic, and here we are. Juan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very suave. I don't know. That word just popped into my head when you were saying something nice.
Watch out, yeah.
So I'm doing good. A bit tired, but you know what? This is legal cocaine I'm drinking, also called coffee. So
straight from
and
Peru?
It says morning handsome.
Oh, okay.
And that's why I'm feeling suave today. Now you know.
So Juan has officially gone from Juan Querendon to Juan Suave. So that's cool. And,
it's better than
latest news.
What was that thing you were calling me? Fuck you. I don't even want to say it. We were saying Juan, was it Foie or whatever? That fucking video. The Foie video.
Oh, yeah. I still have you. Dude, I still have you in my contacts as that. Juan Foie.
Fuck you, dude.
For those of you who don't know what we're talking about El Clásico, El Foie on YouTube. It was like during this like news interview, for some reason they decided to like interview the most drunkest guy they could find, and this guy's so drunk he thinks he has like psychological powers and shit, and they're like asking him like, oh, could you please describe to us what this is, the foie? And he's like, el foie es una cosa, and like he's so gone, dude, so gone, bro. Yeah. But he's like looking into like the guy that's like interviewing his eyes and shit. He's like touching them and stuff. So gone. But
yeah, I'm doing good. Yeah. How about yourself?
I'm doing pretty good. You know, I'm personally very excited that we've made these changes on the podcast. You know, we're now on YouTube, as everybody can see
video, so you guys can see me doing this potentially.
Yeah. We got our face reveal. So you know,
we've had a face reveal before
here and there. We've been like fairly anonymous for the most part though, like on our social media. I mean, we were sharing like photos and stuff of ourselves like at the gym, right? And then I even told you, I'm like, I'm kind of done with that. Like, I don't really feel like doing that because the gym's a personal thing, you know?
It's not really us either, you know?
Nah.
Like, it's something that people don't realize, but like the level of care for this podcast is like through the fucking roof. The level of care for social media is lower. And we want to bring it a little higher because we know that the growth of podcasts, especially these days, is based on social media and your presence and all that sort of stuff. And we're trying to, at least on my part, right, I'll speak for myself, I'm trying to like it more and making the reels and making the posts or whatever. But I don't have, for anyone that doesn't know, I don't have any social media at all. I'm not big on social media. I'm not a fan. I think it just wastes my time personally.
Right.
So definitely, again, it's not something that I'm super happy with, but I am getting better at because I know that it's something that's, like I said, just a pretty important tool to grow the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have my personal Instagram. I think I have Snapchat, Facebook, but realistically, I only use Instagram, and it's more or less just to kind of send memes to friends, you know. Yep. And yeah, I'm the same. I mean, I started taking like selfies at the gym and stuff, and I'd be feeling yoked, and then like I get compliments from people like, "Damn, bro, like you're looking ripped." And then I'm like, nah, man, it's just the lighting or it's just the shading. And like, I'm like, why am I trying to promote something that's not true? You know, like I have made progress in my health generally, you know, but I'm not there yet. You know, I don't have like the body form or shape that I want, that I'm working for, you know. So it's like, why am I celebrating before I even get to the end goal? Right.
Yeah.
And then furthermore, it's like, we're not gym influencers. We're not fitness influencers. Like that's not who we are. At least that's not how we're trying to promote ourselves, you know, for this podcast. But that is something that we're working on. So I am excited that we're on YouTube now. You know, that was something that we talked about like in the beginning of this.
That's wild. You know,
Yeah.
I'm not even looking at like the views or anything. It's just like, I'm just so used to YouTube. It's like, oh, I go there for entertainment to watch videos, and it's like, oh, that's me. That's my face right there.
Now we're there. Now
Holy shit, that's wild. So yeah, I agree. It was a pretty, I don't want to say difficult, but it was just a very tricky sort of transition to going from just audio, right, which was frankly pretty easy. I mean, the editing was the difficult part, right? We edit it, we cut things out, whatever. But uploading it was easy, right? We personally use Anchor, so we put it up there, goes through everywhere else. We're done. Now it's different because now it's like we upload a video to Anchor, which Omar found out takes a very long amount of time, right?
Yeah, and don't refresh when you're doing it.
Pro tip, don't refresh when you're uploading a huge video. It takes a long time. And then on top of that, right, we also have to now upload it to YouTube. A bunch of, you know, as like two guys who have never messed around with YouTube personally, there's a bunch of things that you have to consider, and you can put the little benchmarks or bookmarks, whatever those things are. And so it's definitely, again, not something that's like difficult in terms of like complexity, just like a lot more tedious sort of work. Like, all right, now I have to do this and I have to do that and I have to do this other thing. So yeah, but I think it's good. I like it that it's on YouTube. I also was really surprised that Spotify would also have the video. I for some reason thought that Spotify would just not like it, you know, like only the big podcasts would be on video or whatever. That was my impression. So I thought that was cool as well. Yeah. And switching over to this platform, right? We were previously on Zencaster, now we're using Riverside, which is interesting.
Yeah, I would say it's definitely an upgrade. You know, for other people that also are either trying to make their own podcast, have their own podcast, or just are in the podcast world, you know how much time goes into these things. You know, because if it takes you an hour to record, or just say, like, let's just start with like someone that's listening to an episode. If it's an hour-long episode, it took you an hour out of your day to listen to it. And, you know, more than anything, people very rarely actually listen to a full hour, right? Now imagine somebody that's making one, right? It's not going to just take an hour. Yeah. It's hours, you know, just to make an hour of content, right? I wouldn't call myself a content creator, but essentially that's kind of what we've become, you know, creating this content through the platform for the podcast.
It's wild
and it sounds cheesy, you know, like people that are like on social media, like, oh, I'm a content creator. Like, okay, relax. Like, you make videos on YouTube or like Instagram and stuff, but at the same time, it's become a business. It's become a business model where people can gain sponsorships, and through those sponsorships gain, you know, a good amount of wealth that they can then invest back into themselves, their platform, their podcasts, their brand, you know. And it's like, that's how you get the Mr. Beasts, the Joe Rogans, the whatevers of the world, you know, all ages, all groups. Because at the end of the day, when you're on the internet, it's not just people your age, and it's not just people older. It's also people younger. It's everybody is on the internet, right? And so you can gain a really big following and still at the same time have somebody as a friend that also does the same thing, and their followers will never even know about you. You know, that's how crazy it is, right? So it's just exciting. You know, I'm good too. I'm happy about the direction the podcast is taking, the growth. I see it. I feel it. We're working for it. On a personal level, you know, also working on myself, working on my truck, right? Getting some more progress on that done. Just, you know, really checking off the boxes. You know, I feel good. Also feeling slightly exhausted, but hey, we're here. We're getting after it.
I think people also miscalculate like the rate at which certain things grow. You know, we're used to something like, what's a good example of this? something like, let's say, learning how to swim, right? You want to learn how to swim, you go and you take lessons. And so, every lesson you take, you progress a bit, you become better and better and better. Same thing with working out, right? Whatever it is. It's a progressive thing. But usually what happens is you put the work in and you see a little bit of progress, and you put a little bit more work in, a little bit more progress. The thing that that I sort of like have recently realized about, like, for example, like the podcast or Instagram, things like this is like, you expect to put this amount of work and then you expect to get this amount of compensation, right? But some things like this grow at a different rate, not necessarily slower, but and it's some idea as well that we've talked about in the company that I work for, is like, you put these changes and you won't see any potential like huge changes. Maybe you'll see something small, but you won't see any large change, maybe for a month, maybe for 2 months, who knows, for some extended period of time. And you think like, whoa, all that work went to nothing. You didn't get anything. Then after a couple of months, something gets picked up, right? Then you get like that additional growth. You're like, oh, that's where it works, right? Because it has a delayed effect, right? A delayed growth. Certain things have, where you have to be comfortable putting in the work and not seeing anything in return. And then after that, you get that delayed effect, and then you have something that's building on. And even after you stop the work, it's still building on, right? Because it started building and growing at a delayed rate, right? So that's something that I've sort of started to understand, not only with like the podcast and stuff of that sort, but also with personal businesses, other things that I want to do. I can't expect things to just click and I'm like, all of a sudden, I have $1 million, right? The thing that we were talking about a couple episodes ago. Right. You really have to build to it. Sometimes you work and you get the reward right away. Sometimes you work and you won't see anything for a couple months, a year, who knows? There's a bunch of different businesses out there that take a long time to develop, right? You talk about like real estate, you probably won't see a profit for like 5 years, 5-10 years, just based off of how slow that market works. And I'm not talking about like buying a house and flipping it. I'm talking about, you buy a house, you rent it, pay your whatever loan or mortgage with the rent, and you won't see really an actual return on your investment for another 10-20 years when the house is paid off. Then all of a sudden, you have this money, you have this property that you paid no money out of pocket that you own, right? That's when it's like you go from zero that you've made to an insane amount, like instantly, right? So we just have to be, I think, comfortable with different states, different rates of growth.
Yeah. Well, one thing I wanted to add to that was like, just because you're changing something doesn't always mean it's an improvement, right? And that's like another factor that comes into play. And this, like you're using real estate, for example, you could use that in the example of a workplace. You could use it in the example of making personal gains, personal growth. Just because you're tweaking, changing things doesn't always mean it's going to lead to something good, right? And like you said, the changes will also be delayed. So if you're changing something, expecting an improvement almost right away, and it's even at that delayed, but then a month 2 months later, you realize like, oh shit, this is actually worse. And you're like, damn, right? That's part of the journey, right? I think that's also what was kind of not scary to me, but kind of what I guess turned me away from trying to improve myself, was just like, why put in the effort if I'm not going to see it right away? Why even try at that point? Like, what's the point? And I think a lot of people have that point of view as well. It's like, what's the point then? Why am I going to put myself through that to just feel humiliated, ashamed of myself? I'd rather go consume something, or I'd rather, go mess around somewhere else, distract myself from what I actually need to do, because at least then I'll actually enjoy my time, right? But again, if you're not really putting in the effort, putting in the time to yourself, your workplace, your business, your investments, right? Why would you ever expect anything better out of yourself? Why would you expect anything better out of life, if you're not putting in the work for it? But, there's always multiple factors as to, what could go wrong, what could improve when making changes. But I always like to go back to that one thing. It's a quote, but I'm probably not going to like remember it correctly, but it's like, there could always be like 1,000 million reasons why not to do something, but there's always one reason to do it, and if you can't find the one reason to do something, to change, to improve, then I think that's probably what you should be focused on, because I think that's the real root of the issue, right? Before even trying to tweak things in life or, make all these realizations within yourself, it's like just focus on the one. Just find the one thing, right? Just focus on that, go from there. But yeah, I mean, pretty crazy, from where we started to where we are now, and obviously we're going to continue to grow. And we've talked about it a few times throughout the episodes, but it's exciting, because this is something that's on record. And for the people that don't have their own platform, their own podcast, when you have something like this, what it's done, at least for, I'll speak for myself, what it's done for me is it's created accountability. It's created kind of a timeline for myself. When I go back to the old episodes, and yes, I do listen to our old episodes, I hear myself and I can almost go back in time to where I was at that point in life. And that's something that's really important. It helps you keep you on your toes. It helps remind you where you come from and where you're going, because we could all say, today I want to do this in the next year, 2 years, 3 years. I want to do this in the future. I want to become this kind of a person. But then you go through life and you kind of get lost and you kind of forget about it, but through this platform, it's like, no, consistency, keep that workload, keep that work ethic, keep getting after it. Why are you doing this? Why should you continue to do this? Why is this important to you? And it's a constant reminder. In a sense, it kind of helps you keep that cycle going on in your life, which I think is really important. So, I'm definitely grateful for this. And more than anything, before this becomes something bigger, this started off as something for ourselves, as a little project, a little kind of hobby, and it's done great things for us. And we're not necessarily talking about monetary value. We're talking about personal growth, personal gains, which I think at the end of the day is the most valuable thing that you can have in life.
Yeah, 100%. People often think about the monetary value, and it's not like we don't, right? It's like, okay, let's try to head in that direction for sure, but there are other things that you can get out of, right? An example, like I got back into like playing poker, and it's like, oh shit, you're gambling. For me, I'm just having fun. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah,
I can spend $50, whatever, playing poker, and let's say I lose all of it, whatever. It'd probably take me about, I don't know how long it would take. I mean, you could literally lose it all in one hand, right? But I'm pretty decent. So if I actually lost like $50, it would take me like quite a few hours. I'd probably say like 5 hours of playing. There, I just paid $50 for 5 hours of entertainment, right? You go to the movie theaters for 2 hours of a movie, you pay like $30, plus obviously the like $1,000 popcorn with like $5 butter, fucking insane prices at the theater. You end up paying like $50, $60 for 2 hours of entertainment. That's the way I see it. Do I want to win? Sure, of course I want to win. Do I win? Yes, of course I do win sometimes, right? But even if I lose all of it, right, which is what like people are like concerned about. It's like, I lost $50. I just invested $50 because I got entertainment for $50. So that's something that for sure we have to realize. And it was also my main, like, the main reason why I also, not the main reason, one of the reasons why I've enjoyed this podcast as well. And I've said it before, it's like your personal growth, mine as well, but yours especially, is crazy. From the time that we started the podcast to now, like that on its own is worth it. Whatever amount of money, I don't know how much we've spent, but whatever amount of money we've spent or invested on this podcast, if nothing comes from it, I know that we've invested that amount of money in Omar, and we've invested whatever half of that money in me, right? And that's something that you can't touch, but you can for sure notice a difference. Something that I've been thinking about recently too. Let me know what like your thoughts are on this, but like, I don't like that this is concerning me, but like the thing that's concerning me is like something that you've joked around before, right? It's like, oh shit, we're gonna get canceled, right? I take that as obviously as a joke and like not necessarily in reference to the podcast, but the thing I was thinking about is like, I certainly see myself and you in, I guess what you would call positions of power in the future, whatever it may be. I want to have my own business. Sure. I want to, whatever, do that. So let's say 10, 20 years, we get into that, right? something that's been like slightly concerning me is like 100% someone's going to bring up some shit that we said. You know what I mean? And it frustrates me that I'm even thinking about that. Not because I'm thinking about it. It frustrates me that I have to think about that because of this like level of society that we're in. That 100%, I'm almost certain of it. If I have that company, it's like a thing, even if it's like a small thing, the local newspaper will pick some shit up. You know, like someone in that local newspaper will listen to some episode and be like, yo, this guy said this, 10, 20 years ago. And me being triggered of like, fuck, I knew it was coming. But it just frustrates me that like, it's something that crosses my mind because it's a logical, legitimate thing that can and potentially will happen, excuse me, in the future. And it sucks and it frustrates me because then, and I'm not going to do this, but then you do have something in the back of your mind of like, should I say that thing that I really mean? Or maybe should I not? Because maybe it'll cost me in the future.
Right.
I hate that sort of like thinking of like, maybe I'll hold back on this. I hate holding back in terms of that stuff.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I mean, there's definitely some truth to it, right? Being canceled and all that. I think I brought that up a long time ago. It's kind of a joke on the podcast.
I don't think it'll like.
And the further we get into,
I don't think it's canceling because that's more like for artists. You know what I mean? I think more like for business people, it'll just hurt your reputation. You know, like you're not going to go out of business.
Yeah.
Say like I own a company that makes chips. I'm not going to go out of business because of something I said here. Because my clients are like big companies and stuff, but like it just fucks up with your reputation. You know, people who you work with, your employees, they listen to that and like, oh, well, this is who this guy is. Like, dude, he was 25 fucking years old. He was 23 years old, however old he was. Like, when did we lose this concept of growth that literally this podcast is like built around? You know?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not worried about it.
Why?
I mean, I'm my own biggest critic. I mean, whatever people could possibly say, whatever thoughts they could possibly have about me, I can guarantee people that my thoughts about myself have probably been like 10 times worse. I don't think I personally care too much about what people have to say. Yes, of course, your reputation can be on the line depending on the position of power that you're in. But I think at the end of the day, it comes down to the intention that you have, right? If you and me are shooting shit on this podcast, saying silly things, you know, out of context, maybe here and there, generally somebody would have to say, okay, these guys are assholes. Okay, why? And then it's like you look into it and like, oh, but they're not though. You know? It's like, oh, these people are like full of themselves or whatever. It's like, okay, let's look into it. It's like, but they're not though. You know, like you have to look behind whatever statement they're trying to quote you on, right? Because that's kind of like what happened with Joe Rogan. It's happened with other people. But when you kind of look back at it, it's like,
yeah, but how many people look back at it?
Who?
You know, this is a very
not many.
Yeah, it's a very superficial time, I think, where you hear a story and you're just like, oh shit, Biden did this thing or this person said this thing, and you just read the story. I mean, I'm guilty of that. I read headlines and I'm like, oh shit, okay,
right,
and I don't read the actual article. You know what I mean? I don't have the time, whatever it is. I don't care enough either way. But the thing that sticks in my mind is the headline. And the headline is
headline media.
5-10 words. You know what I mean? Out of complete context. How can you understand a whole situation with that? That's what I'm talking about. You know, that's the part that like I think about, because it's like, yeah, 100%. Anyone who like takes the time and looks like, nah, dude, they were just being dumb, or two, they don't care or whatever. It's just like, but who's going to look into it?
I could already like imagine like somebody like with the headline like Juan from the Intrynsic podcast hates cats, and then it's like you with like a screenshot from the podcast, but you like in your man bun, you're just like this, you're like, you know, or like you like this, exactly. You know, because it's always they always capture you like at your worst times. Like when they would shit on Obama back in the day, it'd be him like con todas las canas, you know, like faded like hair, and like him going like this, like looking all stressed. And it's probably one of the days when he was just hella tired at the office, right? But for some reason they used that picture. Yeah, I mean, who knows? Maybe it'll happen, maybe not. I don't know. anything is possible in life, but I'm not going to let that keep me from saying or being who I am. You can't,
Yeah.
you honestly can't. There is a risk that you play when you put yourself out there, creating content, producing a podcast, being a social media influencer, whatever you want to call it. But at the same time, it's like, I don't want to say people deserve it, because that's just too much of a blanket statement. I really don't know everybody that's gotten canceled or been shunned or tried to be portrayed as something they're not. So I can't even say that. But I think if you're involving yourself with people that are greedy or just don't really value your friendship, or, just the toxic kind of people, if you're surrounding yourself around those people, I think ultimately it's those same people that turn their back on you, right? Once things start turning better for you, it's like they get jealous. And out of that jealousy, they want to almost like put you down to lift themselves back up. Like on Twitter, people are really quick to throw puns or say things about each other, but they wouldn't say that in a public setting, right? Because how do these celebrities or other famous people stay relevant? They at some point or another peak, right? You can only be a star in so many movies until your career starts declining. Oh, but hey, what this person said was wrong, and I think that thing was wrong that they said, and so I'm going to put them down for it. And I'm a really good person. You guys should follow me, and you guys should remember me as a good person. And then it's all of a sudden it's like they start trending, right? That's all it really is. But again, it's like if you're surrounding yourself around malintentioned people, toxic people, I think at one point or another it might come across your journey in life. But if your intention is good, if you're doing good, if you're doing the best that you can to improve yourself and maybe help other people along the way, I think you're doing the best that you can to stay out of that kind of lane in life, I mean, at least that's how I think of it.
Yeah. To be fair, I don't lose sleep over this. It's just something that I was thinking about like a day or two ago. And I'm not going to like change, who I am or how I speak or whatever. It was just like, I could see it, as like inevitable as I see me eventually having my own company or whatever else I want to have. It's like, it's kind of how they say, right? If you go up, like someone is going to start hating. It's just what happens, just people
Naturally.
who aren't happy with their own life, who want to tear down your life, right? To bring you down to sort of their level,
Sure.
Maybe to get a reaction out of you, right? Call you something, and then you're like, well, actually, and you go at them, and then you're like, oop, they got you. Now you're at the same level.
Yeah.
So, anyways.
Yeah. I mean, even like besides the setting of like cancellation or trying to bash somebody online, a slight variation of that. I had an example that happened to me not too long ago. I actually didn't think I was going to talk about on the podcast, but hey, fuck it. I had a long day, and I had gone like super far out of town to go to the gym, and so I was on my drive back. And it was like about like a half an hour to an hour drive. And I was like really hungry. Like I was starving. It's like, all right, 10 at night. And then I stopped by this In-N-Out or whatever. And this guy comes up to me and he starts talking shit about one of my friends to me. And I'm just like, what? Like, what? I was like, so like confused, I'm like, do people really do that nowadays? Like, do people just walk up to like, hey man, that one friend that you have, they're a really bad person, and let me tell you why, out of nowhere. It was super uncalled for, and I won't really get into details. But I discussed that obviously with my one
Who's
friend.
the guy who was talking, and who was the friend?
No, but I was discussing that with my friend, and of course I told my friend, because again, this is my friend. I could care less about this person that came up to me. It's like somebody I don't really know. And I'm like, dude, who does this kind of shit? Like I'm sorry that I even have to tell you this. Like, I feel bad for you. Like, my bad, but like this happened, and I just thought you should know that this person is kind of shady. Like, I wouldn't say hi to them the next time you see them or whatever, Long story short, what I want to take away from this is like, these people that have bad thoughts about you don't have your best interest in place or in mind, or really like are hateful, like you're saying, would never do it to your face. I mean, it takes a certain type of person to say it to your face, but a lot of people will do it on social media. A lot of people will do it behind your back, you know? And that's another reason why I don't care. Because of course people could talk about me, people could talk about you, but it'll never make its way to us. And if and when it does make its way to us, by then it's already lost its punch, you know? We don't care.
Yeah.
Right? And the only other thing I want to say about that is, like, if you're that kind of person that likes to stir up rumors, share gossip or whatever, I think you got to reevaluate your life, because you're spending a massive amount of time spreading things that are false about other people. And honestly, it's not your business, you know, whether somebody is doing good or bad in life, that's on them, you know, and hopefully they're figuring it out. But for somebody to have the audacity to try to point out somebody's weaknesses or downfalls or mistakes and then bash them for it, like, you're on like on another level.
I don't care about that shit. That doesn't bother me. The thing is, like, where do you get so much fucking time? That's the part that I don't understand. People like, go for it.
Yeah.
Hate on whoever you want to hate. Do whatever stupid things you want to do. I don't care about the reasons. To me, it's like, where the fuck? And this is out of a genuine curiosity. Where there are days where I'm like, damn, I could actually use like 20, 25 hours today. Like, that'd be good. Where the fuck are people getting?
I still remember when
like, that much fucking
when you said
time?
like, oh, I could use the extra day of the week to get our shit done. What was the thing that you said?
I think now I'm gonna start working out 8 days a week.
Yeah,
that's 7 days isn't enough. Oh my God. That's the stuff.
Like after this is Juan, right? This is like him after like working out how many days consecutively?
I think I'm like at 100 and
you're like
85, 86.
Right.
5 months.
And so after him doing this, right, he goes on to say, you know, I could use an 8th day to work out. What the fuck? Dude? Like,
yeah, that was an obvious joke. But yeah, that was,
yeah.
Honestly though, like that's like, I never look into that stuff. It's just, to me, literally, I'm just thinking like, where do you get the time? Like, how much of your life are you actually living to have, like, I don't care if you send out a tweet and it takes you 10 seconds. 10 seconds of your life, you're just like, yeah, I'm gonna talk shit about this person. Like, damn, yo, like that seems like such a waste of time. And on some level, I sort of, I'm waiting for the day where someone does say something like negative, because like literally it's gonna be like you're talking to a wall, bro. You're talking to this wall right behind me, because it's just gonna be like, what? I don't know you, dude. Even if I do know you, it's just like,
yeah,
literally. I told my friend this. He's like, when he was like asking about the podcast, a bunch of other stuff. I'm like, and then we started talking about similar things like haters or whatever. And I'm like, dude, it's fine. Like, I don't know if anyone is, but I wouldn't know either way, because literally the level of like interaction they'll have with me is like if they're screaming at a wall, just like, all right,
sure,
cool. Moving on. So moving on in the actual podcast, because
yeah, got to get away from all that hate, you know. And I mean, I'm specifically all about the good vibes. You know, I like spreading good vibes. I like feeling the good vibes. I love it when you like enter a restaurant. Oh, what's funny, Juan? What's funny?
It's not funny. It's just an eye roll. When you start talking about vibes, it's just like, you remind me of old Omar. Not like the good sort of parts of the vibes. When you're talking about vibes and like, man, you just gotta like listen to yourself, man, and just like, all right, cool, Omar, yeah,
feel the good vibes.
Appreciate it, yeah.
How much have you smoked today?
Exactly. And I didn't have to ask, because I'm like, anytime. Yeah. Here's actually a funny thing, actually, that I realized. But like, I've always been super philosophical, and I would actually, on some sense, take advantage of you guys when you guys were high, because I'd be like, that's when these guys actually started thinking. Because I remember I would literally, like, in lunch for like high school, we would go and hang out. And I would want to talk with you guys about like, hey, what do you guys think about this? Like philosophical stuff. Like, what do you think life is? You know, like, is it this or is it that? And literally the reactions were trash when you guys were like sober. I'm just going to say it. When you guys were just chilling there, it's just like, yeah, man, you know, life is just, I mean, it would be cooler without school, you know, like, so it's, and I just look at you guys like, damn, bro, like, you guys gonna smoke anytime soon? Or can I, you know, kind of like the term get big speed or whatever, like, can I get any more of them stone friends? So I can actually have like conversations because oddly enough, right? Like, yeah, you definitely like once people started like at least like smoking weed, it's like, ooh, all right, let's dive into this stuff. The only problem that would annoy me
Yeah.
is like the thoughts would be here and then they would be there, and I'd be like, and I'd be trying to like keep everyone like, yo, let's focus on this though. We're really diving into it. Like we're getting into some good stuff. Yeah, dude, but what about like aliens and stuff? Like you guys think like that's like real? And I'm just like, man, like that's a dope conversation. But let's just one and then the other.
Save that for another day. Yeah. I think I mean, it definitely influenced my creative abilities when I was younger, for the good or for the bad. But at my core, I've always been genuinely like curious about things, you know. But like going back to like the vibes thing, you know, like say for example when we were younger, you know, we would know exactly when we'd be around people that were on the good vibe or on the bad vibe. You know, if you and I were having a conversation like this, and then somebody tried to come along and join a conversation, they would hear us. Sometimes I think most of the time people would just kind of walk away. Other times people would maybe just like stand there and just listen. Other times people would try to join with like, hold on. We're getting somewhere here, you know? But you know, it's the vibe that you put out there in the world. You know, sometimes I'm having a bad time around, you know, during the week, and, you know, I'll go get some lunch somewhere or something. But the second that they hand me my food, it's like I have a smile on my face, you know? And it's like, that helps me to get through the rest of the day, right? But now imagine if they handed me my food and I'm just like, oh, now I have to go eat. Like I don't even have time to eat, you know? Like how do you think that would make like the worker feel? They're like, oh wow, like they don't even like our food. Like what? You know, like that's why I always try to like tip people when I can. I try to say thank you. I try to open the doors for people. Try to be as pleasant of a human being as possible. You know? Like I don't want people to have an interaction with me and think, wow, like that guy wasn't so nice, or wow, that kind of sucked, you know?
That guy's
not because I care what they think about me. Yeah. But more so because I want them to take something from me that could hopefully be constructive to their life, or that can make them, you know, make an improvement within that very second, within that week, months later, whatever, you know? But genuinely putting out that good vibration to hopefully keep this world turning, you know, instead of maybe make people go into chaos and who knows what. But
I used to make fun of you for that one, but then like in college, I was like, yeah, actually, I agree with that.
It clicked,
like vibes and stuff. Because I never like I sort of understood it, like, but I didn't really understand it. Then in college, it kind of
you're like, I can't see it. What vibes? I can't see.
It clicked a bit more because it was like every time I would do, especially like in France, I always talk about France, but that's especially when I found out a lot about, I don't know, myself in life. And I was like, I started making like connecting the dots. Like, all right, I'm really nice. I was really nice that day because I was in a really, really good mood. And everyone around me was like in a really good mood and nice. Maybe not before I got there, but when I got there, it's like, oh, hey, how's it going? So on and so forth. And it's like, this stuff really is contagious. And it became more apparent and more important to me after that point, because I've always, you know, I've talked about like, you know, wanting to have friends in different positions and from different ethnicities and everything like that. And overall, out of all my friends, the thing that I'm always looking for in like new friends is like ambition and a want and need to be happy. You know, those are the sort of two things. And sometimes they can be conflicting, whatever, but that's like the key thing that I'm looking at when I'm looking at like, you know, they seem like a cool person, should they be my friend? And I notice it's like, well, why would someone who is like that be with someone who's not like that? Right. In a sense, like, why would someone like me, frankly, who's like ambitious and wants to travel, enjoy these other things, no disrespect to anyone, but be friends with someone who just wants to live in a similar state for like most of their lives, someone who's content with their job, stuff like that. Right. And it's nothing at all bad against people. Like I still have very good friends who have opposing perspectives on life, I would suppose, for me. Like they don't really want to travel. Okay. They want to stay in their same job and keep growing in that, you know, small town, wherever it is. And they're still good friends, but they're not close friends, you know? So this is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like close friends who I can talk to every day, be like, oh, dude, like we should go over here, we should go over there. Like, hey, I've been thinking about this like idea, this company. What do you think about it? Like, that kind of sounds okay. Why don't you try looking at this? That's when the vibe stuff started clicking in, because it's like, you're looking for all these interesting people. You're looking for all these fellow entrepreneurs, travelers, people who like to have fun, go have a drink, whatever it is. Are you that person? Right? Are you someone who they would want to, hang out with? And it's not about like changing yourself to appeal to other people, right? This is just who you are as a person. And if that's who you are, then those are the sort of, vibrations that you have to, like you said, put out there and not portray yourself to be something else, because then you're just going to miss out on other people who you actually want to be friends with. Right? That's kind of when I started clicking in a little bit. That makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. That makes sense. Absolutely it does. Yeah, I think that's the very beginning level for most people when they start networking, like in college or around that age, when you would be in college. And it's a really beautiful thing, when you start meeting people that your mindset aligns with, or that your kind of work ethic aligns with, just genuinely, like when you start meeting people that you align with, it's a really nice thing, because now not only do you know good people, now those good people are your friends. And with time, hopefully you can grow those friendships to the point where you gain trust enough to possibly go into business together, create a company, make some cool investments, or just, have some really cool adventures, travel the world, just do awesome things with, that's how it's done. I mean, I remember people back in high school that'd be kind of like loners, and I'm like, what do they do all day? Like, what do they do with their time? But then later on, I realized those were actually really cool people too. They just were so focused on their schoolwork. They were just so focused on perhaps their life back at home, that they didn't have time to be socializing with other kids at school because they had so much things going on in their mind. But later on, I'd seen people around town and stuff, or just hear about them. I'm like, oh yeah, man, like they're doing this, they're doing that. I'm like, dude, awesome. That's great. Like, I wish I had met them or tried to meet them back in the day, Mm-hmm. So it just goes to show you that you really don't know people.
Yeah, that's true.
You think you know people, but unless they're your actual friends, or you've made the commitment to try to get to know them, you really don't know people. And to make like statements and stuff like that about people you don't know, it's just silly. But hopefully you're on the other side of that. Hopefully you're trying to get to know people. Hopefully you're trying to make new friends and go on adventures, make investments and all that cool, fun stuff. And you leave all that stuff to the negative people, to the hateful people, and you just live your life, have happy life, good vibes and all that fun stuff, but now I'm sounding cliche as fuck.
I'm glad you said it. I didn't have to.
Yeah, that's the only thing about talking about that stuff, is like I myself have to keep myself in check.
Self-recognition, it's like, a good thing.
I'm sounding too cheesy right now. I could be a part of like a chip bag. Like I could be in a Hot Cheetos bag.
See, if this was a regular podcast, I would have let you keep going. I'm like, yeah, someone out there might be listening to this and be like, yeah, Omar's on something, But if it's just me and you, I'd be like, so what's your point, bro? That's just
cut the shit, bro.
But that's why I like these uncut ones too.
It's whatever we want them to be.
Yeah.
In other news, this is the wrong episode, or this is the wrong podcast. We're not doing news around the world. We don't do that here. Another thing that I kind of wanted to talk about was like,
you're gonna leave us.
I guess it was like something that's been on my mind.
Suspense like that.
What's that? Yes, I'm gonna keep it going.
Suspense about.
Give me 5 minutes.
Suspense about whatever news we were talking about. All right, cool.
No, there's no news. I was just fucking
sick. All right, go.
But what I did want to talk about though was like helping people. Like we've talked about this extensively, right? You've helped me out.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? But like sometimes it's like you can, and it sounds like something we wouldn't say, but like I think sometimes you can be more helpful towards certain people by stepping away, by actually not trying to help.
Mm-hmm.
Like some people, perhaps in that moment in time, just aren't meant to be helped.
Yeah.
you know, because like you were saying earlier, right? It's like you get to know people, you start aligning with them, but then all of a sudden it's like they gradually kind of start turning into something slightly different. You're like, wait, hold on. And you're like trying to keep them in line, right? You're trying to keep them on that similar path. But then sometimes you realize like, oh, well, maybe they're just getting to a different phase in life, or maybe this is just no longer for them. And that was like a tough thing for me to understand. Once I made all this development in my life, I'm like, okay, now I have to help everybody. I want to save the whole world. But then I'm realizing like, oh, but some people just aren't meant to be helped. Not that they don't, deserve to be helped, but it's just like they're not in that same mindset. They're not in that same place. Me actually trying to help them is like almost smothering them. It's like I'm actually pushing them further away the more I try to help them.
Yeah.
That's just something that's been on my mind recently because, as I told you, I decided to kind of let go of certain people. I'm like, I'm done with certain people. I'm done. I'm getting away from that. Again, staying on the good vibes, trying to stay positive, trying to stay happy, right?
Yes.
I have to go back to that.
Good vibes.
But that's part of that too, though, for me. Is like I have to be able to let go of these people so that they can hopefully help themselves. Maybe not. I don't know. But that's on them. That's up to them. So that I can continue on my path, move forward, But that's something that's really difficult for me to just genuinely like let go of people and say like, okay, this is it. Here's a line. You can't cross this line. Do you feel the same way, or is it something that's easier for you
to not help people?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're trying to throw me under the bus here. Yeah.
Yes, I am.
Yeah. I do it all the time. I think people can call me a dick if they want, but I can't help everyone.
Dick.
And a lot of people can't help themselves either. So I don't know. I think it was difficult for me in the past, especially when I was in college and I had certain friends. Well, friends, because it's like, same thing with like college or work or high school, like people who you see all the time. Some of them are really like friends, and you find out after college, and some of them you never speak to again, so that it was difficult for me then, letting go of friends. And I remember like a particular instance where I like messaged you, like, what do you think? Like I was really leaning towards the more forgiving side, like they're still good friends, I really want to keep them in my life. You're like, yeah, but look at what they did. And it's like, yeah, I guess you're right. Ended up making the decision, obviously, to like sever that friendship. That was difficult.
Mm-hmm.
But it taught me, exactly what you're saying there. Like sometimes you can't help other people. Sometimes other people can't help you. And now it's not a difficult thing for me because it's like relatively easy to just like notice. Again, you go back to those vibes, like how you're vibing with certain people, how they're helping you, how you're helping them. And, people hop into friendships like just like all the time, and I'm not like saying like, hey, don't do that. Right. But really pay attention to who are going to be your friends, right? Not just people who you go to have a drink every now and then or hang out with every now and then, like people who you will tell your actual life. Like, hey man, I really want to do this, or I've always been scared of this, but I kind of want to lean into it. Like, what do you think about this? Like the real deep stuff to me, that's what I'm talking about. So I'm not talking about like acquaintances, people who just, again, go have a drink with, go hang out, go play, go bowling with, whatever. Those are sort of like acquaintances to me. And I have a bunch of those, but friends, I only have a handful, and that's purposeful in that same sense, because not everyone can bring to my life what I'm looking for, and I can't bring everything to someone's life that they're looking for, so does that answer your question?
It does. I like, that's why I really value our friendship, because it's like fascinating and interesting to me to hear those words from somebody who probably has an easier time with certain things, like we will both go through similar things at one time or another, sometimes close in the time frame that it happens, but we always have like different experiences with it, so it's like if it's something that I'm having a difficult time with, I like hearing you saying like, no, it's not that complicated, it's like this is the way it needs to be. And I'm like, you know what, you're right. I need to implement that kind of mindset into my own in my own life, so I can get past that obstacle. And that's why I asked you that, for the people that are listening, it's, I think it's something really critical when you're starting to become, an adult, when you're trying to grow up and develop as an adult and not just be a teenager, not just be like a kid or whatever. Because you really start looking at your friendships and what they do for you, what they provide for you, what you provide for them, what you do for them. And sometimes you might find that, what, this relationship, this friendship is no longer beneficial to me or to them either. I think it's time to cut ties, and it can be difficult sometimes, but in the long run, it'll always be beneficial to you. And I think maybe to them as well. Because it's like cutting weight, it's additional weight on your shoulders that you probably have to deal with like day after day, every week. It's like you'll work your whole week. The weekend comes and then they hit you up like, hey, let's kick it. And you're like, oh, fuck, I don't want to though.
Mm-hmm.
It's those kinds of things that you just need to do as you're growing and getting ahead in life. Because as you become busier and busier, you don't have time for these things. You don't have time or can't make time for something that's just a bad investment of your time, for something that's just going to feel like a drag, that you're just going to be like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be here, And I think if you do surround yourself with people that align with you, people that have good intentions for you, for themselves, people that are just on a good wavelength, I think you genuinely feel better when you're with them. You genuinely feel better to hit them up. You feel happier. You're like, hey man, like, what are you doing right now? Let's kick it. Let's get a bite to eat. Let's talk on the phone. It's not like, damn, like, why is this person calling me? So take from that what you will, everybody.
Yeah. I was thinking about, this is a complete detour, but that Burgers and Brews place in Davis was bomb. I've been wanting to go back there. Remember that?
Yeah,
that place, and also
I passed by,
and also that fancy place that we went to once. I think a couple times. Remember, it was like a little fancier. I don't remember what it was called.
Yeah, where it looked like we didn't belong because we had just came from
yeah, we had just worked out and we were like super sweaty and obviously not looking too well. And everyone there was like super fancy and white.
If you ever want to feel like you don't belong, wear like the nappiest clothes or just dirty gym clothes to a nice restaurant and you will feel that. Yeah. I mean, God, I remember getting so many looks from people and I'm like, dude, leave me alone. I'm starving and I'm like about to die.
Yeah.
And
it's fine though.
Yeah, that was funny.
Who cares about that? That's I liked about that because like, yeah, we were looking like that. I don't care. But it's like what mattered to the restaurant is like, you got money? Like, yeah, we got money. All right, cool, sit down.
Yeah. And that's the
good stuff. I haven't mentioned this, but when I went to that restaurant in Mexico, Pujol, I think it's called, number 9 in the world. Literally, like I went regular dress, bro. I mean, honestly, I had like, that artist shirt I wear. Yeah.
Oh yeah, artist with quotations.
Fuck you. It doesn't have quotations. It just don't add the quotations to it. It's just a black shirt that says artist, and I was just wearing nothing.
I'm making you sound like more like a douche than you really are.
Yeah, you are. I was wearing some Chelsea boots, a beanie, and then just like regular sort of
man
pants.
bun.
No, my hair wasn't that long back then. This was last June.
Oh, okay.
So I was wearing a beanie, a black beanie, and keep in mind this is like whatever the 9th best restaurant in the world. I was looking good. I'm not gonna lie, but I was not dressed up. And going in there and like other people were sort of dressed up, but I appreciate that there were people there that weren't super dressed up because I was like, yes, that's what matters. Just like, do you have the means to pay? Yes. All right, then just give me the food, give me the whole experience. That's what really matters to me. So like when you were saying like earlier, like I imagine Omar, or you're like, oh, I envision Omar with like the suit and the tie, or whatever. When I have like my business and all this sort of stuff, I really don't envision myself like that. I envision myself looking kind of like this, obviously older, 10, 20 years, but just like when you walk into the building, when you walk into the room, they know who you are. You know what I mean? You don't have a need to dress up, right? I mean, I'm sure you've seen like all the memes of like Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk, whatever. They dress like trash. They don't care about that. And they're billionaires. As much as I like to dress well, and I to a certain extent like to have like a suit and sometimes dress fancy, normally like 99% of the time like I'm not wearing that. and that's I look for that more. I look for the guy that looks like he's nobody, but he's somebody. Yeah.
The outcasts.
But anyways, those
The
restaurants were
underdogs.
good. I like those places in Davis. They're pretty good. Burgers and Brews was good. It's a good vibe. For anyone who hasn't gone, try it out. It's in Davis. There's one in Sacramento too. It's just literally burgers and brew. That's it.
Nice. Yeah, well, I mean, you will be coming back soon, so we'll definitely have to hit up a couple spots. I actually have a place in mind, but we'll talk about this off the podcast. But probably share it with you guys on the next podcast if it happens.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, going out to eat and stuff is something I really enjoy doing. Like, that's like my favorite form of pastime, honestly. If I'm not, dude, nice. I know it sounds kind of like stupid or whatever, but like, if I'm not working, if I'm not at the gym, if I'm not working on my truck, if I'm not working on the podcast, I don't really feel like doing much else. But one thing I do like to do is going out and dining and having a nice conversation and socializing.
I do too. I laughed at you, but and I'll continue laughing. But I
and the douchebag reveals himself.
I also love that. I've told you this like many times before. Like the way like my mom raised me was always like we didn't have money. We did not. But somehow she always managed to make some good tasting food all the time. Always like, even if it's some like frijoles, it's just like, damn, these frijoles taste good. She would buy like the little yellow peppers, to put them in there. It gives it a little flavor. Like, all right, cool.
Oh, okay.
And then I started cooking with my mom a little bit more. Still not too much because obviously she didn't want me to get burned, whatever. And then we dove into the Iron Chefs, and then we dove into the, Chopped and all those like cooking shows and stuff. So we have the same sort of like relationship with like food of like, I love food to eat it, but I also love to cook it, which is a weird thing that you don't really like to do it, as much as you like dining.
Yeah. I think I'll probably get more into it if my mom allowed me to cook, but my mom is very possessive about her kitchen and she does not like me using her kitchen, but food, dining, eating, tragando, all that stuff, it's definitely a cultural thing. It's in our blood. Like that. It's in our blood. Tragando, yeah. Yeah, it's a cultural thing. I think it's something that was ingrained in us from birth. We love to eat out. We love to eat good. That's one thing whenever I would go out with my friends back in the day, wherever we went, somebody would be like, hey man, like let's go to like In-N-Out. I'm like, all right, let's do it. And then I get like 2 burgers, 2 fries, or like, hey man, let's go to this Mexican restaurant. I'm getting like 3 gorditas, like 4 tacos, and people are like, damn bro, like you really eat that much? I'm like, I like to eat good. Like when you're working hard, you deserve to eat good. You deserve that little, that little present to your gut at the end of the week, on the weekends. It's what we do. You work hard. You got to make sure you rehydrate and you re-energize.
Probably a present to your taste buds, but maybe not your gut. But
well, to both. We'll say to both.
Yeah, I think we're coming to the end of this uncut episode. Thank you all for joining us. Omar, some final thoughts?
Well, yeah, thank you for your continued support. Make sure to subscribe now and like and comment on our YouTube channel.
Can't believe we're saying that stuff. But yes, it's all true.
Finally. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at the Intrynsic Podcast as usual. The link tree will usually have our most recent YouTube video on there in case you need a direct link. I'm assuming right now you'll probably be looking at this on YouTube, hopefully. But if not, if you're on Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, anywhere else, you could always trace us back, onto the social media, which is Instagram, and then through there on the link tree, find a link to our YouTube. Other than that, just continue supporting, please and thank you. We're trying to grow this, and we aspire to make this a big thing, a big movement, make it a brand. Make it something that really matters and means something, not just to us, but to other people. So join us on our journey, continue to support, and be a part of the movement. And thanks again. And
these are a lot of Let's wrap it up right there. All right.
Let's
See
end
you
it.
guys.
Thanks, everybody.